Hey everyone, Pugs here with two new reviews for y'all. Today I'm covering the Abrasive Side and Earworm. Finally, we're talking about some well-known Season 7 episodes that aren't largely disliked. Feels like it's been eons since we've seen such a thing. And maybe I'm using the phrase well-known rather liberally here, but I don't care. These episodes are well-known to me, and that's just how I feel about it. As always, thank you all for tuning in today. Your viewership is very much appreciated. And now, let's just get right into it. I gotta say, the abrasive side is kinda genius for using the green, i.e., abrasive, side of kitchen sponges as a plot point. I kind of really love when episodes utilize SpongeBob's status as a kitchen sponge, like Model Sponge or Suds, which is great news for this episode. Also, I feel like this episode, the abrasive side, is almost like a fusion of Overbooked and Walking Small in terms of plot and SpongeBob's character, and this is great because I liked both of those episodes, so I suppose it makes sense that in the end, I liked this one too. Let's discuss. The beginning of the abrasive side sets up the plot quite nicely, if I do say so myself, although it does also make me feel bad for SpongeBob. SpongeBob's been waiting in line for the bus all night so that he can be first in line to go to Glove World with Patrick. But then people start asking to cut in line for the bus, which is utterly ridiculous. Like, literally, who cuts in line for the bus? Completely unnecessary behavior. And Patrick is upset that SpongeBob is far back in the line when he arrives, but thankfully, this isn't drawn out, and Patrick is still happy that they're going to Glove World anyway. That is until Sandy shows up. Listen, I love Sandy, but I don't like how disrespectful she is of SpongeBob's time here in this scene. She clearly just ran into him. She wasn't seeking him out or anything like that, yet somehow this is an emergency that she needs she needs him to help her with? Like, what in the guilt trip? And then we see that this emergency was just Sandy wanting to make a smoothie. Oh my god, that got me quite heated. Since this beginning part of the episode is about emphasizing why SpongeBob has decided to get an abrasive side, we're shown more examples of SpongeBob being walked over and unable to say no. Next is Mr. Krabs, who approaches SpongeBob after he finally returns to the bus stop with a request to say no to Pearl's desire for new shoes for him, because he's too much of a coward to do it himself. This is also irritating, but not incredibly so, because Mr. Krabs being disrespectful of SpongeBob's time is kind of a given. I also see this moment as a nod to Bossy Boots, which makes it better for me. Or, not Bossy Boots, but, Squeaky Boots, and also Whale of a Birthday. I feel like it's nods to both of those as well. At least, it's better until we get a missed bus of rock bottom proportions. See, that's the one thing I didn't like about Overbooked, how people seem to think that they have a monopoly on SpongeBob's time. Yeah, that's the point of this episode, and yes, it's partly on SpongeBob because he's unable to say no to people, but everyone else should be also, considerate of him, and the fact that he's clearly doing something, and maybe you shouldn't guilt trip him, ugh. It's just annoying because it's not fun to watch, even if this is all important setup for the plot. And since it is important, I can give this part of the episode a pass, mostly, but I still don't like it. Anyway, because he can't say no to anyone, SpongeBob ends up not being able to go to Glove World, and Patrick returns and is mad about it, and he tells SpongeBob that he needs to be able to say no to people. And then he asks SpongeBob to scratch his back for him. I really want to like this joke because I can see it. I can see the humor. I can see the funny nature of it. But I think I'm just too irritated, and I think this plot hits a little too close to home. The plot of people taking your assent for granted, even when they seemingly care. It's just irritating to me, sorry. But anyway, so SpongeBob goes home after a long day of being unable to say no, and he cries to Gary about it, and Gary, being my goat, orders him the abrasive side. Once SpongeBob gets the abrasive side, the episode becomes very cathartic and hilarious, greatly building on the irritating but necessary beginning. I don't mind SpongeBob being an asshole here because of how cathartic and hilarious this all is. Or, I guess the abrasive side is the one being an asshole. Whatever. The voice that Tom Kenny uses for the abrasive side is also just really funny to me, and I love how incredibly rude this new side of SpongeBob is. Like, the extreme nature of it makes this all so much better. The part where he's demanding overtime definitely had me laughing, and then the abrasive side's interaction with Squidward was similarly great. Like, I love how everyone hates SpongeBob's abrasive side except for Squidward, since the abrasive side rebuffs him incredibly rudely. The only thing I don't really get in this episode is that it is very clear that SpongeBob is flipping his entire face/body when talking to people, and, no one addresses that, and I don't understand it. I know I should probably be suspending my disbelief here, but if you haven't been able to tell by now, I'm not very good at doing that. All I'm saying is that how did no one notice that when SpongeBob gets rude, he literally turns green, or that when he doesn't seem, or that he doesn't even seem to be in control of that process? I'm not actually very annoyed by this, but like when a good chunk of the episode is about SpongeBob trying to get help with this abrasive side and all of his friends refuse, despite SpongeBob helping them all the time, mind you, because of a few rude words from an obviously completely new and different person, then the issue is rather glaring. But I suppose I also don't know how this problem could have been avoided without using the abrasive side joke, so I guess I can let this largely slide. Thankfully, Sandy has some reasoning ability and hears SpongeBob out, so my annoyance ebbs away quickly enough. Although, I gotta admit that I don't think I care for the hammy lesson that she spits out here, that SpongeBob shouldn't try to change who he is, since who he is fine, considering that SpongeBob's inability to say no is harming him, and she was literally one of the people to take advantage of SpongeBob at the beginning of the episode, so if I were to be uncharitable, this could be really read as her, wanting SpongeBob to remain this doormat. I don't think that's what the intent was here in any way, nor do I even feel those vibes at all, but I'm just saying it can be looked at this way. But anyway, at least Sandy helps take the abrasive side off of SpongeBob, and we even get an implied reconciliation between SpongeBob and Patrick, so that's all cool. And as for the very end of the episode, it's hilarious, and I love how the episode kind of makes us forget that SpongeBob's grandma was in this one until this last scene of her suddenly having an abrasive side. The abrasive side was generally a pretty good episode, I'd say, even if some character actions here annoyed me. And I know I talked about all that at length, but I promise I'm not as annoyed as I likely sound. I just can yap a lot. This episode was also one of those episodes that involved a lot of the main cast, so I'm a huge fan of that. I love when we're reminded that this is, in fact, an ensemble show. I also just think that the entire plot point of the abrasive side was brilliant. As we all know, I'm very easy to please, and I think that this pleasure kind of eases some of the annoying factors of this episode, which is why I think it's still a great tier episode, coming in with a score of 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, this episode maybe has a few more issues than an episode of this tier usually does, but that abrasive side is just too funny and too cathartic for this episode to be put anywhere else. Coming up next is Earworm. I need y'all to know that to this day, I can remember the musical Doodle song quite well. You know, if I had a nickel for every episode of a cartoon show that I can remember that features a character getting a summary sounding song stuck in their head, and this turns out to be the episode's central conflict, I'd have 2 nickels between this episode and the one from regular show. Kinda funny. But anyway, this episode has always been a rather relatable one to me because I get songs stuck in my head all the time. The only time it really bothers me is when I've got something stuck in my head and I can't remember or figure out where it came from, but other than that, I've usually got a few things circling around the old noggin. So I suppose I am typically in a much better place than poor SpongeBob in this episode. Earworm begins with a gorgeous, gorgeous background, which is a win for me. Are we sure that these episodes that premiered more than 10 years ago weren't made specifically for me? What's extra great about this background is that since this first scene takes place at the Krusty Krab, we can see the colorful sky through the windows of the restaurant for like a minute or two. It's great. Even after this scene, we can see it. But anyway, this episode gets right into it as SpongeBob pretty much already has the song stuck in his head right from the get-go, singing it as he performs his work duties. And I really, really appreciate that the earworm that SpongeBob has here, both his rendition of it and the song itself, is not annoying. It seems we have learned from the erroneous ways of choir boys and even squeaky boots. Thank fucking God. In fact, I'd say that the song here, Musical Doodle, is rather catchy. I also just really like all the little visual touches here, like SpongeBob's dancing with doing his work with style, him literally flying through the air. I love how this earworm is basically, like visually expressed. I suppose that's the right word, because it's not that it's showing us the earworm or the song, but more SpongeBob's stimming in reaction to the song. It just reminds me a lot of myself and how I can be when really jamming out to a song. It's also just kind of cute. I don't know. Anyway, on his way home, SpongeBob goes by a store selling a vinyl of Musical Doodle, which he promptly purchases, and I love that when he gets home, he immediately utilizes Gary to play the song, because yes, apparently Gary is a record player, which is a great bit of consistency from Your Shoes Untied, which also featured an excellent song that is very catchy. SpongeBob listens to the song literally all night, which is the mark of the episode transitioning his earworm from something endearing to something perhaps a bit concerning. I mean, it's still endearing, but before it was just a little quirk, now it's literally interfering with his activities of daily living. He even arrives for work almost late because of it, and he starts being unable to control his literal movements because of the song. I just love the way that this episode builds the tension and suspense here, like how it slowly shows him becoming increasingly obsessive over this song, like the escalation is just great. The pacing is excellent. And I also like how SpongeBob's chosen method of dealing with this earworm is by simply letting it play out. This part reminds me a lot of I Heart Dancing because of SpongeBob, or because of how SpongeBob is just dancing around while trying, and failing, to do his job. This gets Mr. Krabs on his case, so now SpongeBob is really feeling the pressure to get rid of this earworm, but it's not working, and as he stands at the grill, literally pulling his face shut, you can just feel that something unbelievable is about to happen, like we're about to reach the peak. And we do, because SpongeBob just about has a moment of complete mental deterioration, and this part is hilarious to me. Or maybe it would be better to say hilariously unsettling. The pan across the wrecked, vandalized kitchen is just great, and I love all the actions that it implies. I mean, he's tilted his grill, he put the fryer on top of the grill, stuck his spatula in a barrel, nonsensically stacked a bunch of uncooked patties, spilled a bunch of shit, made bizarre hanging displays, and written doodle all over the walls. It's, strange, concerning, incredibly off-putting, and above all, hilarious. I'm literally just laughing at this point. Like, I love when SpongeBob dives off the deep end, like in To Save a Squirrel or Bummer Vacation. It's always so fucking funny. Speaking of both of those episodes, we get the surprise appearances of both Sandy and Patrick when SpongeBob can't take it anymore and runs out of the restaurant on all fours, busting through the wall as he does so. And I'm happy about these appearances because yay, another episode with lots of characters, and for this episode, it's particularly the Big Five. Love when episodes have the whole gang like this. Seeing SpongeBob run out like this, Sandy recognizes that he's in danger, so she convinces everyone to follow her, including Patrick, who was just standing around town when SpongeBob ran by him. And I love how fucking unsettling SpongeBob is when they get to his house. Like, him just being on the ceiling in the dark like this is an Exorcist movie. Love it. I really enjoyed this section of Earworm, where Sandy, Mr. Krabs, Patrick, and Squidward all try to come up with another catchy song to drive the earworm out of SpongeBob's head. For one thing, this is also incredibly relatable, because I only really get rid of one earworm when another takes its place. Although I am saddened that Patrick didn't get his chance, Mr. Krabs' and Sandy's attempts were pleasant enough to listen to and watch. I loved Mr. Krabs' little dance and how Sandy's song came with Stetsons, and I love that in the end what gets rid of the earworm is Squidward's awful clarinet playing. Of course, this isn't quite the end yet, because Earworm ends with Squidward getting an earworm of his own, and his abrupt shift from satisfaction to horror is a hilarious note to end things on. Earworm is truly, like, a really, really good episode. Really great episode, actually. Like, I love this one a lot. The visuals, the characters involved, the humor, the plot, it's all just so great. And perhaps I'm a bit of an odd duck for loving this one so much, but it is what it is. It's a hilarious, relatable episode, and so it simply makes sense that it's being put in my amazing tier, where it comes in with a score of 9.5 out of 10. As always, I'll be ending this video with some closing thoughts of mine. Man, it's been a minute since I've rated an episode so highly. For some reason, I'm not great at going beyond a 9.4 out of 10. I think just because those are really high ratings, or because those really high ratings are for the cream of the crop, like my literal favorites of the show. And yes, Earworm ranks among those. I don't think this is necessarily an unpopular opinion in that people don't like Earworm, but I don't think it's as beloved as it is for me. And that's okay. I like being unpopular, and I like being positive, and that episode really hits on a lot of the things that I love, especially when it comes to the mix of horror and humor, though Earworm is definitely lighter on the horror than an episode like Squid's Visit or Gone. Despite the fact that I've made peace with the fact that sometimes episodes are going to hit sore spots for me, and so I wouldn't like them as much as I perhaps could, I do sometimes get frustrated with my inability to put that aside. Like with the Abrasive Side, while I mostly allowed the frustrations I had with that episode to slide because of how necessary they were to the plot, they definitely still played a role in the rating no matter how much I tried to make it otherwise. And I don't know, sometimes it can just be really annoying because it feels too personal, and then I feel like I'm projecting, and I don't want to be projecting onto a TV show. Ugh. What else can I say? I don't know if I have anything else. And I guess if I don't, then that means I should go ahead and close the video out here. And so I'll see you guys in the next review.